Hello and welcome to another painting video. My name is Livia and today we're gonna talk about lost and found edges in painting. So you're gonna learn what this expression means and why it's so important to orchestrate edges in your painting, not only to get a loose and expressive brushwork, but also to invite the viewer into your painting in a pleasing and enticing way. So if you'd like to see that, stay tuned! A few years ago, I published a blog post about lost and found edges. It turned out to be the most visited blog page on my website, so I thought it would be quite useful for others to learn more about it in a video format. So here we go! Firstly, let me tell you a short story about my painting journey. I've always wanted to have a more expressive and loose brushwork in my painting. But at the beginning, well, over 20 years ago, that seemed to be impossible. There was so much to learn and so many things to focus on that this topic was left behind. My brushstrokes didn't follow my ambitions at that time. And I wasn't ready for that anyway. There were other topics that seemed to be more urgent to develop my skills on, like drawing, tonal values, color mixing, depth, and the list goes on. We need to develop a good basis for representational painting, and it takes time and practice, which is fine. It's the fun of learning and actually never stops. We keep working on the basics and fundamental principles and techniques to develop a better perception and craftsmanship. Also, the artistic atmosphere I was immersed in at that time highly influenced the way I painted. When I immigrated to New Zealand in 2009, I had the opportunity to be exposed to different painting approaches, and I believe that it made me see this beautiful painterly approach that I always aimed for. That rapture was the beginning of my painterly journey. Also, learning a second language made me access a lot more content about my painting heroes and their techniques. It's been over 10 years now since I moved to New Zealand, and I'm still enjoying learning about this painterly approach and how to improve my brushwork to achieve my goals. And one of the techniques that has helped me to improve my brushwork is lost and found edges. I knew about this technique for a while, but I never understood how I could bring it into my painting. I've applied this technique to my work in the last few years more intensively, and I continue to explore different possibilities with it. In every new work, there is an opportunity to explore that further. But what does lost and found edges mean? Well, firstly, let's understand what edge exactly means in painting. An edge is where one shape or one brush stroke meets another. Every time we touch a brush to a canvas, we create edges. It's not limited to separate objects, right? But also variances in color and shading. There are basically three main types of edges: sharp or hard edge, soft edge, and moderate edge. Sharp or hard edges are abrupt delimitations between areas. They command attention and give strength to a focal point. So you usually create hard edges when you paint two colors side by side without blending them. So that's a sharp edge. Or if you apply a thin layer of color, say if I go with this here, very thinly, and in a darker shade like this, so that's a sharp edge. And another option, if you apply two colors that create a high contrast side by side. For example, black and white, like this here, or complementary colors. So I've got green there and red. Very high contrast. Complementary colors. So usually important areas of your painting, like focal point or any area you want the viewer eye to be drawn to, are good areas to explore this type of edge. As you can see on this image here, the Tui bird, it's just a detail of one of my paintings. So these areas here, I've got sharp edges, I've got a high contrast between dark and light. The other one with the girl's head, I've got sharp edges all the way around and, separating values and some colors on the head. So this is the full painting of the Tui, and the Tui is in counter. So I have here the focal point, which is the main bird, sharper edges, more contrast happening. Then we go to the secondary one, and I've got a lot of moderate edges, some sharp near his head. And then, the other two is they are just blending into the background, just being part of the background, but not being the main center of interest. So this one here just blends into the darkness of that background, the vegetation. So I've got a low contrast there, soft edges and moderate edges, and so on. So that way I create a visual flow for my painting, leading the viewer eye through the areas that I want them to look first and last. So the viewers will enter the painting through that corner, then his tail direction leads the eye to his head, which is the focal point. Then they come to the next bird, and then the third bird, just sort of blending there. Then it goes around and it finds the next bird, which it blends in, and then the eye comes back to this one, and so on. Soft edges are smooth, gradual transitions between color shapes. They suggest the quality of the atmosphere. You can use softer edges when objects recede into the distance, like those trees all the way around here. And you can use sharper edges when the objects advance in the foreground, like the flex flowers and the flex leaves, the birds, and etc. You can soften them as you go, which is usually what I do nowadays. Or you can apply the colors side by side and blend them by using a mop brush or any other brush that you like using to blend colors together. Moderate or intermediate edges are somewhere in between soft and hard. But what about lost and found edges? Well, lost edges when a shape of color blends into another so smoothly that you can't really tell where one begins and the other ends. Like here, for example, it's quite hard to know. So areas like this, even here on his tail, so it's quite blended. This one here as well, so it's lost, while that one is found edge. Found edge is an edge that's seen. So lost and found edges work in conjunction. There is a painting that I love, and I love the works by him. Anders Zorn, he was a Swedish painter, and I love the way he approaches this painting here. As you can see, the girl's dress, arm and hands, they just really suggested, even a bit lost here, so you can't really tell much where her arm begins and in the dress ends. They just blend together. It'll be the same here with the hands, so you've got a bit of a found edge, and that's quite soft here, lost there. You don't see a delimitation of her dress around you. It's all blended, melting into the shadow on the ground. It's a beauty. And the same on the areas like this. So we have a lot of sharp edges here where the lights strike the girl's dress, and the same with her hair. And you got a sharp contrast on that chair. And again, it gets lost here, so that's beautiful. See how that gets lost? So if I covered this, you would not be able to tell that this was her hair. And same with that hand, it's just a suggestion. It's hardly a hand in the wrist as we know of. But when you look at the whole painting, you can understand this. Our brain can read the picture in a very mysterious way. It's a good challenge for the viewer eye to understand this here. It's quite an interesting experience. And again, a lot of lost edges found, soft, and so on. I think you get the idea now. So you can create lost edge when you soften off or completely lose an edge. They disappear into the next shape as you see here. So I like to apply the bridge approach or transition color approach to create the lost edge. So let me show you how I do it. For example, if I want to make those colors blend, I probably mix the red and the green together on my palette and it would come up with a transition color. See how it softens that high contrast and therefore the sharp edge disappears. Then if I wanted that to be even softer, I would just blend it a little bit more like this. See, I've created a lost edge here, then I can see a bit of a found edge up there. So it's up to you really. It's about what you want to express with your painting, what sort of feelings and effects you want to create. So if I want to do the same here, so just a value that's in between those two, like this. Then we mark the brush and kind of move them along here that way to break the edge. And these ones here close enough, I can just brush it over. I'm gonna use Anders Zorn's painting to give you a demonstration on how you can create the lost edges. It's just a quick demonstration. I've got the printed image here that's in color, and I've got a black and white over there. So what I'm going to do is mix a few colors and then just paint here, just to quickly demonstrate that to you. I don't want to paint the whole thing because that's not the purpose for this video. I just want to show you a quick way you can create the lost edges and show you a little bit about the colors and values there. So if you want to paint this on a canvas and learn from the Zorn palette and learn from the, his techniques, it's a great way to learn more about the edges on your painting. But for myself, I just want to do a quick demonstration to show you here. And if you want to do the same, you can print out the image in black and white and just paint on top of it to experiment things, to play around. The Zorn palette was known as a very limited palette. So his favorite colors would be the yellow ochre, cadmium red light or vermilion, ivory black, and titanium white. I've got the picture in black and white, and you can notice how the colors you see on the color one, on the colored image, so they were reduced into one value in this darker area, and then just slightly lighter here and much lighter on the highlights. So basically we've got three dominant values: the dark, the sort of medium, and the light. So I'm going to start mixing a base color. So I'll take yellow ochre, bit of the red, and black. I usually don't use black on my paintings, and I try to avoid it as much as I can, because for my main subject, I like painting flowers, landscapes, and etc. So I like using the Impressionist palette. But if I'm painting a very traditional portrait, I could use a bit of black. Why not? I might even explore the Zorn palette a little bit further in the future. So that's my base color. So that palette would replace the primary colors. So having one type of yellow, one type of red, and then the black here can be used as a blue just to cool the colors. It's not blue, it's black, but it's just the job that the color will do. It will be similar to blue. Here we go. So this is my base color. So I can apply this here. I won't paint the whole thing. I'll just choose a section. Could be this one. Could be using liquid to thin the paint down. That's probably what I would do if I was painting on a canvas. But here it's fine. The paper absorbs the paint too quickly and it makes it dry very, very fast. So I don't want the liquid to speed up that even further. So just put, the oil paint straight there, and then I can work with the wet into wet process. So I'm going to lighten this here a little bit just by adding yellow ochre. It makes the color warmer as well. See, the values are very close. If I want to create a lost edge, it's much easier that way. See, this is here, if I squint, I can't even see the edge. So then I see a bit of a bluish shadow there. So I'll probably add a bit of this ivory black. So I go here, I can work, with those very close values. See, here it's a little bit darker. So you start with the base color, and then you can layer it while it's still wet, and then you've got those soft edges. You don't even need a mop brush for that. Just with the same brush, applying one color over the other instead of applying color side by side. So see here, you'd go with this color everywhere, brushing this way, so you'd create lost edges. Then for her hand and wrist, we add more red and yellow ochre to mix that color. So let's mix a little bit more here. So we brush over this. See, that way you can create the shape. Then I can see a little bit more red in the mixture, quite reddish here, so add a little bit more red to my mixture. A bit lighter version for this area. That's a found edge there. I'll just color that in quickly. Add some white to this mixture, and then we would apply the light quite sharply here. Then using the brush to create a transition here just by blending those two together. And the same here, it's creating a softer edge. Sharp, found. And some lost edges here. I don't want to go too fiddly here, too detailed, because otherwise that will take too long. It's not the purpose of this lesson. It tends to an abstraction. Bit of yellow ochre, black, and a bit of white. goes here. We kind of make it similar to this. So here just use similar colors. That's the hair section. Then I need a transition color between those two. So it's mid-value. Then we can just blend it in, lose the edge. So that just blends in. If I want that to distinguish a little bit more, just go with a warmer color and so on. If I want to go slightly lighter here, so I can kind of layer that to create smaller shapes, just subtle variances of the color. I'm gonna stop here. I think you got the idea now, so let's move on. There is a way to identify potential areas to create lost edges. You can squint at the image and check if some of the edges in your scene disappear. Those edges that disappear are the lost edges. I'm squinting at the picture. I can see areas like this, for example. So the edge of the boy's shirt down at this end just disappears, it blends in. Areas of the background as well, like this. Of course, the photographer who took this picture made the background go blurry on purpose so that this here can stand out. It gives power to the focal point. See how we look straight to his eyes? So this is quite expressive, beautiful contrast here with his neck, all this dark area in contrast with the light from the background. Another place we can create a lost edge is here, the edge of his shirt. That can blend into this shadow here, create a soft transition there. And the same with this shadow coming up here, it can be all soft. And the same with the edges of the shadow blending into this here. The edges separating different values on his skin. See how that gradually changes from dark to light. So the same here, so you got, just edges blending in. This here as well, soft edge, very lost. I can't even see that if I'm squinting, and so on. So a lost edge usually happens where two color shapes get similar or equal in tonal value. So that's why when we squint here, the edge almost disappears. And the same here, so the values are very similar. That when I squint, it just blends in. Some parts here are very dark as the shadow, so you can't really see the edges there. And by all means, don't paint the edges that you don't see just because you know that they exist. So if you don't see it, don't paint it. Let the viewer's imagination work that out. Give them a chance to visually finish your painting, if you know what I mean. This is another example. The previous picture was in black and white, just to be easier to explain where you can create the lost edge. It's usually when the two color shapes get close in value or share the same value. You can see, soft edges all the way around here. That is a beautiful area to create a lost edge instead of trying to paint all the leaves and all the sharp edges of the rocks and etc. You can have all kind of soft and moderate, some lost edges, so that gives strength to this here. I hope it helps. Know that there are quite a few ways to achieve a more expressive brushwork, and that can be quite personal as well. You can try out these tips, but remember to take into consideration that it's something quite personal and subjective. We all interpret things in different ways. Find out what suits your feelings and your style. And also keep learning, because all the knowledge that you gain will make you express your art more easily and assertively. Knowing how to manipulate edges well is a powerful tool for an artist. Don't worry about losing the edges strategically. Your painting will still make sense without all the edges carefully shown. The viewers will understand the shape once they see the found edges of the object. So there you have it, a few insights on lost and found edges. I hope that this lesson has been useful to you. If so, please leave your comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what are the other topics you'd like to learn more about. And if you liked this video, remember to subscribe to my channel for updates and more videos like this. Remember to tap the notifications bell beside it to be notified when I post new videos. And if you'd like more in-depth tutorials, you can go to my courses page on my website and check out what I've got there for you. The link is in the description area below this video. Also, you can follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook to see what I've been working on at the moment and to participate in giveaways. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again. Happy painting!